Okay, and we are live, or we should be. So, right, hopefully see you guys in 30 seconds. I'm just going to make sure that it is working. And sorry for the 5-minute delay, as always, 5-minute delay. What are the moon odds? What are the odds for moon and what are the odds for bust in your opinion? I will give my opinion in this episode. The things I want to talk to you about today are what does significant dilution mean in my opinion. Obviously, everything is just in my opinion. I am not in contact with Mookie, although Mookie Gerdinger, CEO of Cineworld, if you're watching this, maybe you are, please give me a call and we can do a live interview. That would be amazing. Right, got to pour myself my whiskey first, as always. The next thing, so what does significant dilution mean for Cineworld? Then the next thing will be my review on Avatar 2. Then also one of you wanted to go through the RNS, the recent RNS from Cineworld. So we've got that here and we're going to go together as well. But not only that, I'm going to put it through an AI simplifier tool so that we can get rid of the legal smarm that they use, because it's a heavily legalized written letter. Oh, did I get the audio right? I got the audio right. Okay. Hello, Harry. Cool. Okay. So, as always, leave comments in the comments section, questions, and I'll try to answer all of them before the end of the video. Let's get into what I think significant dilution means. So, I've done videos where I went into showed what the prices were, different market caps per share, what the dilution effect would happen, and that was in livestream 13. So I delve into this in quite a lot of detail in livestream 13 if you want to go back to that episode. And I talk about how the share price is calculated of stocks and cash versus odds of success and what that's impacting the stock, how a 5p share of Cineworld would have a 200% dividend yield based on dividend issuing a $500 million dividend in 2019. And what I think is extremely likely is that Cineworld will go back to having that sort of cash flow in the future. And if they have a dividend of 500 million and free cash flow of 500 million, basically a overall free cash flow of 1 billion, then basically Cineworld definitely can pay off its debts that it's currently dealing with in a time of normal operation. And right now it's not just normal operation, they've got interesting films coming onto the slate, which didn't have anything to this last year. Last year all it had was Spider-Man and just not a lot of other really good films to sort of prop up that revenue. Just want to say hi to you guys in the comment section if there's any questions. And hi, viewer from eToro. It's great to have you here as well. Okay, I'm sorry if you're having trouble with audio. Let me try and sort it out. I can see that's not working. Testing. Right, testing that now. I'm sorry if there's some background noise. Right. See if that works. So guys, try to fix this. Too much whiskey. There's another option, which is I use this mic again. I'm going to plug that. Testing, testing, testing. Perfect. Okay, this should be working now. Alexa, stop. I'm so sorry about this, guys. Hopefully this has fixed it. Right, I'm going to wait 1 minute to see if this is fixed. I can't actually listen to the audio, so you in the comment section are going to have to help me out, guys. Sorry about this. I have bought a new Bluetooth chip in my PC, and so I thought I could use my Bluetooth headphones. That caused problems, and realised all of this right before the stream. So let's see. I'm going to have to edit this stream down when it comes to it. Working now. All good. Okay, brilliant. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for letting me know. I'll know just to use this microphone. Maybe I'll need to buy a stand in the future. Take this off now. Okay, right. I've got my whiskey. Hope you guys do too. And right, I'm going to start again a little bit. I'm going to backtrack a little bit in this episode because I'm going to cut starting from here when we go live. So yeah, this week we're going to be talking about what does significant dilution mean, and what I was going to say is in the live stream 13 I actually talk about this in significant detail, and what I talk about is basically what the price, the dividend is versus the price of the share currently. So since Cineworld went into Chapter 11 filing way back now, I don't actually remember the exact date that they filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. If you do, leave it in the comment section. They haven't actually had any dilution yet. And we don't actually know that there is going to be any dilution. It's just that part of the deleveraging is likely going to be significant dilution. And I don't actually have examples of what this means for other companies because it could be so unique to the type of company. Cineworld are unique because they have a lot of capital leases on their balance sheet. And actually, by removing sites, by removing cinemas, they actually wipe off a lot of their debt that way. And then other bits of their debt that are making up their enormous debt bubble are things like obligations to other studios. So things like they owe money to James Bond for putting their film into the cinema, and then they give that money back to James Bond. So I think cinema's debt looks higher than most other businesses generally anyway. But they do have significant debt owed to banks, which is what needs to be paid off very soon, which we are hoping Avatar will deal with. And what I'm going to be talking about later in this episode is what my thoughts are on Avatar as well, by the way. And so, yeah, dilution. We know that in 2019, the dividend, we only had a short amount of time to see the financials of Cineworld after purchasing Regal, we had a short period of time, and what it looks like is that Cineworld, acting normally with Regal, has around 3 billion revenue, and that is with Endgame. But this year we have Avatar, and Avatar is putting similar numbers to Endgame. So we could actually compare that in a bit. Actually, that would be an interesting comparison. But basically, 2019 is what we're kind of basing our figures on, because we are, as shareholders, we're sort of thinking that we're going to go back to 2019 after the pandemic. And so in 2019, the dividend was 500 million. And right now, the share price is 50 million. And 50 million is around 3 to 5p per share. And so right now, if there is no dilution, then what you'd be doing is you'd pay £1,000 for the stock, and you would get £10,000 in a dividend in a normal year. And you can assume that if there was no dilution, the share price would go up enormously. Now, if Cineworld printed double the amount of shares that they currently have, so let's say they have 1 million shares and they print 1 million shares and give that to the bank in exchange for debt, it's likely that they give something more. Significant dilution would probably be something more like 5 million shares, or it depends. It's all about to do with how good Cineworld are at leveraging their position and how good the banks are at leveraging theirs. And there is a chance that in this dilution event, shareholders' equity can get wiped out entirely. Now, the thing with that is, in some companies, the board of directors are not stakeholders most of the time. And in a lot of events like Hertz, one of the largest stakeholders sold out right at the beginning of Chapter 11 bankruptcy filings. And we actually did see a little bit of that with Cineworld, but we've still got Mookie, the CEO, who has written a letter that he still holds, the Mookie Gerdinger family still holds its 20% stake in Cineworld. So in the event that shareholders get nothing, Mookie, the board of director chairman, who is the CEO of the company, is the largest stakeholder, currently holding his position. So it seems, at the very least, if we get wiped out, so does he. Whether they would then keep him on as CEO in the new company and start gifting him shares as time goes on, that is potentially an option. But one of the things is, with public companies and with investing, one of the key things is good faith. And Cineworld would lose a lot of good faith, I think, if they did this. The audio level needs to come up a lot. I can move the mic up to my mouth, but I can't do anything about the audio level because it's already at 100%. So I'm sorry about that. So yeah, that's my view on significant dilution. Would need to be at around 1,000 times. So let's say you got 1 million shares. If they printed 10 million shares, that'd be around 10,000 percent dilution. Oh god, I'm pulling these numbers out of thin air. That would be significant dilution. In that event, if they were to do that, a 500 million dividend would still come out to sort of a 5% yield. So yeah, significant dilution would need to be crazy from where we currently are to make this not a worthwhile investment. The risk, the way that this stock is being priced, however, is as if it's going to go to zero. It's basically priced as if it's gone bankrupt. Not that it's going to have significant dilution, that it's gone bankrupt. And that's the event that I think is unlikely, that equity holders will get absolutely nothing. And that is why I think that it is a interesting trade at this point in time, because the market is basically saying forget this stock, and yet I personally think that I can see signs that they're doing everything they can to keep the business intact, to emerge from bankruptcy as one, and still give stakeholders a stake in the business. And you can see that even in their wording, they're saying that dilution will be significant. They're not saying in their wording that equity holders will be wiped out. They've not said that at any point. And so even in their heavily sort of legal written letters, they don't say that. And that was repeated in the latest letter, in the latest RNS that we're going to read together in this live stream, that the same sentiment that equity holders, there may be significant dilution, but we aren't going to be wiped out. So curious to know what not being wiped out means. You can think that there are people that invested a lot of money into Cineworld a long, long time ago that bought it at something like £3 per share. And I think you got to think, a lot of us, I think, jumped in say the last year or the last 2 years during the pandemic, maybe something like that. We have our averages potentially at 30p. Other very, very wealthy people that invested a long time ago probably bought in at like £3 and stuff like that. There will be people that bought in at £3. And so I think they will be thinking about those people as potentially more than us. Right. So the next thing I want to talk about, a bit more fun. I want to talk about what... I don't need this here today. I want to talk about my thoughts on Avatar 2. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this. And so, yeah, my thoughts on Avatar 2. And I'm going to be seeing it in IMAX this weekend. And this is going to be a spoiler review, potentially spoilers in it. I'm not going to hold back. But starting off, not a spoiler, is that you really want... One of the incredible things about this film, you shouldn't go for the CGI, because after, I would say, 10 minutes, you completely forget that you're watching CGI. You genuinely feel as if they filmed this on another planet somehow, and it feels very real, and it's unbelievable how they accomplished even today. So I've heard people talk about how a film like this is no longer needed because we've all gotten used to such great CGI, or the technology isn't interesting anymore. But the fact is that no one actually uses CGI that well in films. The best CGI is ever used is in films where it's mostly practical effects and then they touch it up with CGI later. In the films that rely on CGI, even Marvel films, the last good use of CGI was Endgame, and then they totally gave up. Like Scarlett Johansson's film Black Widow was awful CGI, some of the worst in any Marvel film, and then Black Panther 2, Black Panther, I haven't actually seen Black Panther 2 yet, but I've seen some of the worst CGI in films, in Marvel films, which is a shame because I've also seen some of the best CGI I've ever seen in Marvel films. And the CGI seems to be getting worse as they go into TV, and they're just sort of churning out more and more content. And so I went into Avatar 2 thinking I'd seen this all before, and the CGI was just far beyond the first film. I didn't actually think the first film was that incredible. I thought the first film was definitely better than games, but I didn't feel like I was completely lost in the world. There were bits like t-shirts just not looking real on people's bodies. In this film, everything just looks perfect. And then, okay, so that's the CGI bit over. You get lost in another world, and that carries most of the film. But then the second thing is, I think some people, they talk down the plot of this film. The plot of this film is great. It's so solid. I actually think it's quite complicated and interesting, and there's a lot of things like family dynamics, and one of the things that James Cameron does really well is he doesn't create overly woke characters or anything like that. They're all very complicated characters, and the heroes, sometimes you don't like the heroes because they're not making good decisions, and one of the things I like about that is because that's what makes them human characters despite them being aliens. So yeah, it was really great to see all the characters, they have having flaws, having great qualities, wanting to see them succeed, and then like this sort of inevitable payoff happens, but it's such a rewarding thing, and it's nice to see a film that can deliver exactly what you wanted and what you expected and still surprise you. So there are a few twists that I won't ruin at the end of the film, but one particular bit that I will just ruin for you is there's this
bit where there's a human character that has grown up on Pandora with the aliens, and there's a bit where Zoe Saldana's character just becomes a sort of savage, tearing up these bad guys. But these bad guys are humans, they're people, but she just looks just completely animalistic and enraged. And you see this moment where this boy that's grown up with Zoe Saldana's character his whole life is suddenly afraid to come out and reach out to her and ask for her help. So like he's been trapped with the enemy this entire time throughout the majority of the film, and he's suddenly afraid to reach out to this person that he's known his whole life because he's afraid that he's going to tear him to pieces. And you believe it, and you believe his fear, and it's a really interesting moment, and just that little moment makes you have so many questions for Avatar 3, and I think Avatar 3 is going to deliver again. After Avatar 1, I didn't want to see Avatar 2. I didn't need to. I did not care. After Avatar 2, I need to see Avatar 3. So that's what this film has done really well. It's like built on that story, but so much more than that. It's built on that CGI, but so much more than that. And then Avatar 3, I've got this like so many questions as to what's going to happen to these characters. And then also the sort of main evil guy character, they bring the evil guy character that died in the last film, they bring him back in an interesting way. And the way that it ends with him is super interesting. And one of the things that I think... So there are a few things that I think the following films are going to touch on in a really complicated way, is that that the films... Essentially, human beings are going to become immigrants that need refuge on Pandora. And these Pandoran aliens are basically going to be saying, not on our planet, you can't come here. And you're going to realize how complicated it is that us, the human beings that destroyed our own planet, is hypocritical to want to come to theirs, but also at the same time we've got nowhere else to go, and are they really going to be telling us that we should just go die in space? And then also so I think it's going to get more complicated. I think Jake Sully, one of the interesting things is he never fully explained to the aliens why human beings needed Pandora. And so you've also got that. So I think the films are going to get gradually more and more complicated as time goes on. So I'm really excited for that. And basically where I think this comes back to Cineworld is I am definitely keen, after watching the film once, to go see it again in the cinema. And that is a key thing for revenue for Cineworld. So let's just go have a look at Box Office Mojo. Avatar: The Way of the Water. You've got some of these weekends, like you just got really strong follow-up weekends. Like this is quite rare for like these following Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, these Mondays, this Monday, Jan 2nd Monday, the 2nd January, in the second, that was a bank holiday to be fair, but that getting 20 million is absolutely amazing. And so, yeah, we're at 1.5 billion worldwide and going strong as time goes on. And I've talked to death about comparing Avatar 2 to other films and how they need to do. So we'll know probably about how far into the release of this are we? 19 days. 30 days will be an interesting time to compare it fully. So let's just compare it to... I mean, you can't compare it to Avatar 1 because Avatar 2 has already made so much more money than Avatar 1 because it's a different time, inflation and stuff like that. Like I can take... And this number here, this worldwide number, factors in multiple re-releases. So you want to go to the original release and the international, well, the worldwide box office of that was apparently $2.7 billion, but I question that. No, that's the worldwide release of all the releases all time. So yeah, we can go see 21 days. It made 515 million domestic. That is pretty cool. Let's have a look at that. 19 days. 19 days. Okay, I might have been wrong. Avatar 1 might have made more money than Avatar 2. And might be on track to continue have made more, which is a shame. Sorry, I was excited about that, and actually I think I looked at the numbers wrong. Okay. Well, it's still doing well, but if someone wants to correct me on that, but that does mean that the trajectory of Avatar 2 is slightly different to Avatar 1. And I know that Anyway, I've shared information on Reddit comparing the earnings of cinema back in the time that Avatar 1 was released and the time that this was released, and cinema are making a lot more money today than they were back in the time where Avatar 1 was released. We're just going to have to wait and see to see how much this impacts cinema. Okay, and then the next thing that I want to talk to you about is the RNS release. Reuters report Cineworld shares slides as it locks focus on group sale. What is a group sale? A group sale, so basically Cineworld have regions in Europe, they have regions in Israel, and they have regions in the UK, and they have regions in the US. And they're called different things in every different region. So they have Picture House in Europe and Israel, and then they have Cineworld in the UK, and then they have their largest segment, which is Regal in the US. And Regal is actually the largest bit, but it's called Cineworld because Cineworld bought Regal. And basically a group sale would be selling Picture House, Regal, Cineworld all at the same time, whereas an individual sale would be, say, selling Picture House individually. And so Cineworld is saying, no, we're not going to sell individual bits of the business. We would sell the whole business or none of it. And in that event, they're basically saying they're going to sell the whole company. In that event, stakeholders, I believe, would get money, because they would be purchasing the debt off of us. But there probably would be a restructuring involved in that still. But yeah, a group sale is saying that they're not going to sell all the individual bits of the business. They'll be selling the whole thing. It doesn't actually mean that us stakeholders are guaranteed to retain equity or to be purchased out of it, because there could still be part of the restructuring where they'd be buying it off the banks. But I do believe that in the event that someone is purchasing Cineworld, they would have to purchase it off us. That is my belief. Please can I ask what your thoughts on this year when we exit Chapter 11? My thoughts are we will exit Chapter 11 in February, but I could be way off on that. I think it could be as late as sort of January, February, March, April. So Q3 is end of March, and so 45 days after March would be beginning of May, April, May. So I believe that latest May, earliest, and most likely, in my opinion, is February. Probably February. So February to May is when this will happen. But then we're not. If we exit Chapter 11 bankruptcy, it's sort of out of the frying pan into the fire. We then have to what everyone will be talking about at that point is Cineplex. And so, yeah, we'll then have to battle that. It's funny to think like how you could even have this debate knowing that Cineplex lawsuit is there. But I guess that's something that they've got to factor in when valuing the business and working out how to dilute the shares and everything like that. So that's one of the main crazy factors of like how do you go about it. It's quite a big challenging task, and that is why I think the judge is forcing Cineworld to accelerate their negotiations with landlords. One of the things that I'm interested about that is I think that it will actually lead to possibly a better scenario for Cineworld, because if you're a landlord, you're probably going to sit down and say, no, I'm going to argue for the best price possible. But if Cineworld are going like, you're either being dropped or you're giving us this price, landlords have more of a reason to say yes to Cineworld than they do to say no. Like, landlords need Cineworld more than Cineworld needs an individual landlord. So unless they group together, which I don't think they can do in this amount of time, I think Cineworld have the upper hand with regards to negotiations on getting good capital lease agreements throughout the next few years. And another interesting thing today is that they renegotiated with the advertisers and are potentially going to be saving around 50 million per year, even if it gets their original advertisers to bring down their price. That's a really good thing. Cineworld are definitely taking advantage of every possible resource. They're taking every opportunity of every possible resource through this Chapter 11 filing to strengthen the business. You can see that. There is rumors about Netflix and Amazon. So comment from OG2Tone GG. There is rumors about Netflix and Amazon are interested. I've not seen those rumors. I think this, so I didn't make any video or even a YouTube short about the AMC information, and I'm so glad I didn't, because it just smelt like really big BS speculation, like maybe at best a passing comment from Mookie substantiated it, but it just didn't feel like there was any tangible thing. Every time that something hasn't come direct from Cineworld in an RNS or something like that, it's later come out that it's just horseshit. So sometimes something comes out and then the next day an RNS is released and they go, basically, this is what's going on in the press. And so I was waiting for that, and I kept on waiting for it, and no information came out direct from Cineworld. And so with regards to Netflix and Amazon, either there will be information out tomorrow, a big news report will be on it, and then the next day Cineworld will release a statement, or there will be a news report and then no follow-up, and then later on Cineworld will release a statement because they have to. But I don't really believe any information until I hear it direct from Cineworld, and that's proved pretty useful to me so far. The only time I was caught off guard was finding out that they'd actually filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, in which case they released a statement the very next day in giving lots of detail as to what exactly was happening. So I wouldn't think too much about the speculation. I could absolutely see why Netflix and Amazon would be interested in buying Cineworld, and I've talked about this a bit before. I mean, that would be the perfect bidding war, and in that event of that bidding war, I think it would be very surprising if existing shareholders did not get some remuneration. I think it would get purchased off of us, and if anyone could deal with that level of debt, it's definitely Netflix and Amazon. Netflix, surprisingly, are a much better business than I thought they were, or at least maybe it's just in the last few years they've strengthened their balance sheet, but they do have a really strong balance sheet, debt to equity ratio, and everything is really good. So, and they've got a good cash pile. So if it did become between Netflix and Amazon, that would be a tough bidding war. Cineworld have closed. This also a good time to sell to those companies in that event. Cineworld have closed 5% of their cinemas. Are these in the UK or the US? Okay, I haven't delved through papers of what cinemas they closed, but as far as I'm aware, they purchased $3 billion worth of cinemas in the US when they bought Regal, and Regal had a lot of crappy sites, and those are the ones that they've been closing down. That has been the biggest drag on the business, and understandably Regal have this is why they sold. They're poorly managed. They don't invest well into themselves, and I think AMC are similar. I don't think that they invest very well into their own infrastructure because they're mostly managed by a hedge fund. These things are not things that I know for sure. These are just also rumors that I'm repeating. The main thing that I've done research on is Cineworld structure itself. But yeah, I think that the 5% of cinemas closed are mostly Regal cinemas. And so the next thing, we can click on the RNS, and this is the RNS that came this week, and I think it's so bloody complicated that I'm going to put this through an AI simplify text. So many adverts, simplish. Let's see if this works. Got it. Adverts. Text for simplish. Text to summary. And so has that changed it now? Following its announcement on the 17th of November. Okay, yeah, it's changed it. So bear in mind that an AI has changed this text, but I just find it so much easier to read. So let's just go through the latest RNS bit by bit, and I'll put it on the screen so that you can read it as well. And I'll try and make that bigger. This is an annoying website because it's got a big old sort of waving wall around. Move me over there. There we go. Okay, on the 24th of November 2013, the Geneva Interim Agreement, officially titled, what on earth am I reading? Vienna. No, this is telling me, I'm sorry guys. Let me get Rewordified. That sounds like a good one. Following its announcement on 7th of September 2022 of beginning/graduation ceremony by Cineworld and certain of its smaller companies owned by larger companies, the group of the Chapter 11 cases in the United States, Cineworld has been in discussions with its key people who are interested in the business. Oh God, is it just putting like paragraphs all the time? To develop proposed Chapter 11 plan of reorganization that tries to make as big as possible value for the benefit of moviegoers and all other people who are interested in a project or business. Those discussions remain happening now. This is not the best converter that I've ever used. Let's get... Oh God, I'm not going to sign in. I think this is the one I used before and I liked it. Okay. So I'm going to take this sentence. In parallel with developing a plan to restructure the group's capital structure, the company will also run marketing process in pursuit of a value maximizing transaction of the group's assets, focused on proposals for the group as a whole. It is expected that outreach to potential transaction counterparties will commence in January 2023. A plan negotiations continue, and any actionable value maximizing sale transaction emerging from buyer outreach is expected to run in parallel with the pursuit of confirmation of the proposed plan. See what I mean? Like, this is such a legal, like, who writes like that? No one talks like that. But basically they are going to pursue a value maximizing transaction. So they're going to pursue selling Cineworld to get as much money as possible. Basically, the creditors are being a little bit greedy, in my opinion. And I want just a simple AI tool. All right. Oh wow, Jesus. Okay, I'm just going to try and simplify it for you. Cineworld has not initiated and does not intend to initiate a separate marketing process for the sale of any of its assets on an individual basis. So Cineworld will not sell off Picture House individually. Furthermore, any sale transaction for the group as a whole would not include the sale of Cineworld itself and would therefore not be subject to the rules of the Takeover Code. That is a bit that I don't really know. So let's just see if we can get a quick answer for you on what the rules of the Takeover Code are. The Takeover Code. The Takeover Code is based upon 6 general principles. The general principles are expressed in broad general terms. The code and the code does not define the precise extent of or the limitations on their application. They're applied in accordance with the spirit in order to achieve their underlying purpose. Okay, in addition to the general principles, the code contains a series of rules, although most of the rules are not expressed in... I don't know why legal people decided to make it impossible for anyone else to understand what's going on, but at some point they decided to do that. Basically, as previously announced, it is expected that any restructuring or sale transaction agreed with stakeholders will result in significant dilution or equity interest in Cineworld, and there is no guarantee of any recovery for holders of Cineworld's existing equity interest. So this is what I mean, is like, that is the wording, the exact same wording they used when they went into Chapter 11. It is 100% true of all companies that go into Chapter 11. They cannot say that because they are working hard, they are going to get us equity in the business. And so they are making damn clear that they aren't saying that. They're just coming out saying that AMC are chatting out their arse. But value maximizing and all these things are things that do benefit the stakeholders, and there is a chance that stakeholders will retain equity in the business. Right, I'm going to paste, if I find a good AI simplifier tool, I'm going to copy and paste that somewhere. Right, I think that's all from me. I think that's all the value I can add this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Sorry about the little complications that happened earlier on. Thank you very much for joining. By the way, there's a Discord. I'll put that in the description of the video. Goodbye, guys. Have a great evening. Chat to you soon. Now the awkward bit where I just wait until just a minute so that you guys get the end of the video. I know this is your favorite bit.